Hey guys, well, I'm live here with Brent Sopel. Brent, I really appreciate you taking time to jump on here with me on Mindset Body Bank. I've got a bit of a streak going with some of my old hockey buddies. I keep bringing on Stanley Cup champions. So I don't know if that's a reflection of me or just the people I hang around with. So I appreciate you taking time and jumping on. How you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and just so everybody knows, unlike some of my other guests, Brent and I don't really know each other. We were introduced through another common friend, Ryan Phillips, who I just interviewed on my podcast, and Ryan was open up and said, hey, you know what, I can get Brent Sopel for you, and Brent's a great guy, and we're all kind of moving in the same direction. So appreciate and kudos going out to Ryan for the introduction. He's a unique individual.
That's just putting it lightly.
Well, you know what I mean. Anybody that takes their time out to jump and give somebody else an hour of their time and share their story, I really believe it's about being open, honest, and vulnerable. Now we don't have to hide things the way that we used to years ago, and there's no shame in being who we are and sharing some of the adversities that we've had to go through to get to where we're at. Right.
Absolutely.
So let's start off a little bit, Brent. So you're down in Florida. We were just talking offline, and you're just sharing a little bit of one of the things you're up to. And as I've read more into your bio more currently rather than your hockey stuff, you got a lot going on.
Yeah, it's as Ryan likes to say to me, he's like, you're all over the map, and 100%. I'm in Florida. Started a solar company, so doing solar business in the United States and here in Florida, the Sunshine State, so that's good. Got a couple other things in the back end, but my sole purpose in life, and like you said, it's funny how you trip upon your sole purpose, and that's my foundation. And where I am today is all for that. The solar business, everything I'm doing is to give back to that. And you talked about messages, and anytime I can help an individual anywhere, no matter here in Canada, here in the US, around the world, this is what it's all about, is giving back, because life isn't easy. I don't care what anybody says. If somebody says it is, they're completely lying to you. We all struggle with something, and that's just reality. So if you want to lie to somebody, you're not lying to them, you're lying to yourself.
Yeah, agreed. Well, you talk about being all over the map, but your career has kind of had you in a bunch of different places. So, before we jump into kind of what you're doing right now, we got the picture of the whole solar thing. We'll dive a little bit deeper into that. But looking at your hockey career, you landed in a few different cities, and not just North American, Canadian cities. That brought you overseas. I've heard some of those stories over in Russia. Maybe you want to elaborate. Let's take it back to young Brent. We'll get into that stuff. Growing up, where you're from, Calgary, I believe, or
born in Calgary, moved to Saskatchewan, Saskatoon, okay, when I was 2 years old, and spent half the time there and half the time on our farm, which is 3 hours north. So obviously I'm a farm boy. You take me off the farm, but you can't take the farm out of me. And I'm here in Florida looking for a farm, and I don't want to see any neighbors. I want to be able to run around naked on my farm and nobody see me, and have my own garden. And so, my nickname should be Samsonite, from where I've been around, from Calgary to Saskatoon to completely around the world. So everybody watched Dumb and Dumber, Mommy Samsonite. That's right. That should have been my nickname.
Yeah. You know what? That's awesome though. But it's those experiences that round you out and make you who you are, right? And I know just even from the drop in the bucket minor league career that I had, people love hearing those stories. Right. And it's, which leads to a whole other discussion. I mean, you as athletes, a lot of times we identify by the jersey we wear on our shirt. No matter how many different jerseys we wear, we're always identified by this jersey. And I know when I left the hockey world and decided to go into the corporate world, I kept getting dragged back into, well, tell us about, playing in the minors and what was it like and who are some of the guys you played with? And everybody wants to hear those stories. I was trying to show them how much I knew about the products and the services and the corporate world and trying to leave that one, but you can never really shake either one, right? So it becomes a challenge who you become or who you are.
Well, and everybody wants to be who they're not. Again, you talk about the corporate world. They dream to be, an athlete where we are. And now you're in their world. You want to be them. So we don't live in reality in the sports world. I didn't really enter the real world till I was 40, because it's a different living, and stepping out of there. And you talk about doing great things with young kids and athletes coming up is, because nobody talks about the end. It's kind of it's kind of like asking for that prenup before you get married.
Yeah.
What are you planning for the end?
Yeah.
Well, in our situation, you have to. That's the right way to do it, and that's why all athletes, all four major sports, plus people in the military and Army and Navy, none of them we did whatever we're doing for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, 30 years, 40 years, whatever that is. Now you want to enter the real world, which is not a nice place, with no understanding of how to do a resume, how to interview. What does that mean? To us, leaving the game of hockey, like you said, you opened the corporate world. It's a deer in headlights.
Yeah. So what did you do? Was there anybody there when you were playing? Like, I didn't have the career that you had, but was there anybody there to help walk you through that? Did they have, I know you got agents and there's advisors, but anybody help you prepare when you were a young guy to say, hey, Brent, this could be over soon, and you might want to think about life after the game?
No, absolutely not. And agents, advisors, it's a business too. They don't help you. As soon as you leave the game of hockey, let's go back. Yeah. Hockey, once you get paid, you get your first paycheck, it's a business. So all the fans, it's not a sport. I'm sorry. It is a sport too, yes, because you're sitting in the armchair, of home or in that arena, hopefully sometime soon here in Canada and everywhere else. It's a sport too, yes. The owners, it's a business. They don't care about who we are as a people. They talk about family. They don't care. Are you making them money? And that's what agents, same way. You're not making me money, done. They're not advising. Let's go back a little bit further. I think junior hockey, the CHL does a terrible job. That's when you need to start talking about the end. Yeah. Because I was lucky. I played 18 years pro. I was lucky enough to play 18 years pro. Average age of a career is 5 years. Yeah. Now, if you play in the NHL for 5 years, you don't come home with $1 million in your bank. So guess what? You got to work for 30 more years. What are you going to do? Yeah. I don't know. What do you like? I don't know, because I did something, for 30 years. So I think this starts, at the beginning of junior. So I think this lands on the CHL, who does a horrendous job with preparing these big guys. Because you take a look at OHL, WHL, and QHL. The percentage of those guys make an NHL career where they can retire off of the money they make? 0.0001%.
Right.
So
yeah. And that's like the elite of the elite that are already there. The top 3% of the guys, of the 3% that made it.
Yeah.
Or the 1% of the 3% that made it.
Right? Yeah, exactly. So prepare those guys for life. So you said, ask me, I had nobody. I ended up being, I left the game of hockey. I had 4 kids, got divorced. And, I found out when I was 32 years old, I'm dyslexic. So I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school, so my education probably doesn't take me past grade 8. So here you got a guy that needs to find a job where nobody would hire me, didn't know how to do a resume, didn't have an education. I didn't have work experience. Nobody cared that I won a Stanley Cup. Everybody's like, oh, you want a Stanley Cup? I'm like, I don't care. It's not paying my bills. They don't care what you've done. Tom Brady walked out now, best quarterback ever. He didn't have the money. People wouldn't care. Can you do the job? Yes, no. Okay, so move on. They don't care. It's the real world. This is how it works. So I had nobody. I hit I hit drugs and alcohol really, really hard. I've been sober 4.5 years. I got thrown into rehab. I was almost dead. Yeah. So that's when I had a reality check, is getting sober and figuring out, I had to figure out who I was, and learning to love myself with a learning disorder that I was made fun and ridiculed my whole life.
It's sad that it comes to that, because as an athlete, and I learned that too, at a much quicker level. And I guess I was sort of lucky because I chose the college route, and I said I'd give myself a couple of years. And I did. I kicked around the minor leagues for about 4 or 5 years, and I got tired of it. And, I was kind of pushed into a role where they wanted me to fight all the time, and that was like day one. I went to the North Stars camp in '92 and had a fight very first day of camp. Held my own. I wind up going with Tenorti McRae and Reed Simpson, and I did okay. but coming out of college, I didn't have a whole lot of practice. I was just a big kid. And then all of a sudden now you're pigeonholed in that role. And I was like, fuck, do I want to do this forever? Because this sucks. Right? I used to be able to play the game. And when you talk about playing the game, then they're like, you're traded or you're down, or, now I was like in the low of the low down on the coast, and just wasn't fun anymore. And I said, I'm out, and I had a couple surgeries and some broken bones, and I had to move on. But to your point, I went through a lot of mental issues, and drugs and alcohol were involved. And I was looking around, there was just nobody to talk to. Nobody cared. Right. And like you said, you're just a commodity down there. And it goes to show, even at that level, I know a lot of guys that played at that level, and you get pushed around until your value isn't useful anymore, right? And you're traded or you get sent around, and nobody's there to say, hey, you know what? Hey, Brent, let's set you up for life after. Let's help you, prepare for that. Not there.
And again, it's a business. There's three businesses: NHL, NHLPA, NHL alumni. They're in a business for themselves. They're not here to help, and this is it's just a reality of, again, why I started my foundation to be there to advocate and support, kids with dyslexia and learning differences, and, in mental health, drugs and alcohol. Like I said, I've been sober 4.5 years and put people in rehab. And that's my purpose, is there being there for people. And, we all put our pants on the same way.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
I said, women, you might have jumped off the bed getting your Lululemon. we still put it on the same way. It doesn't matter what color you are, blue, red, black, green, yellow. We're all human.
Yeah.
We all struggle, and talk about learning disorders. I think about 80% of us have it, or, something.
Yeah.
So just, it's being okay with who you are.
Right. I think that's the most important thing. And that's a big part of what the platform that I've created is to, work with the young up and coming athletes now to help them realize and build a foundation that says, hey, I can help you unlock things that I've learned about in the mind and your body, and how the two of them can help you become a better performer. But more importantly, these are lessons that you're going to be able to take with you when the sport is over, and start to realize that there will be an end. And you don't know when it is. It could be a motorcycle accident. It could be, you're just, an injury in your sport. It just could be you're cut and they don't need you anymore. Like you said, you've lost value to whatever your sport is, but you have to be able to prepare for that. I mean, how many guys do you know that the day after they were done, they wake up and they go, I don't know what the fuck to do today. Right.
Every one of them, single one of them, and like you said, talk about, mental health. Hockey is 90% mental, 10% physical. Okay, you went to the gym, you worked out, and you went for a bike ride and a run, and you skated. Great. What about the 90%?
Yeah. And what's interesting about that, Brent? It follows a narrative that I'm trying to build around youth sports, is that everybody, I think, if you ask anybody, any of the coaches now, being in Toronto, everybody here thinks that the GTHL is the heart of hockey in Canada, right? It doesn't matter. You got 60,000 kids registered in minor hockey in the Toronto area, right? I put on a live event in the middle of COVID and brought in some of my buddies, the guys that I was closer to, that played in the show and that are involved in management. And I thought I'd put on a day, and I did it with a non-for-profit group out of Vancouver called For the Love of the Game. And the idea was, we're in this limbo. I wanted to give something back. I paid for it out of my own pocket. And the idea was anybody could register, anybody could come on, and you could listen and interact with, these high profile guys from the OHL coaches right up through the NHL. And I went to the GTHL, I went to the OMHA, I went to the OHL, I went to, not a single one of them offered to help promote my day, which was called Life Through Hockey. And all they wanted, they asked me what my budget was to advertise through their associations, which to me, and maybe I was a little bit naive coming from the hockey or the corporate world, coming back into hockey, thinking, hey, you know what, I could reenact some of those old contacts that I had and reach back in and say, hey, I used to be a player here. And it was a little bit disappointing, but to your point, I mean, it just comes full circle. You're right. It's a business. They just wanted money. They weren't interested in what, they were so worried about the return to play that I said, have you guys asked the kids how they feel? Has anybody talked to them about what they're going through mentally? Well, we got to get them back to the rink, and we got to figure out how to socially distance properly, and whether they're going to wear masks or not. I go, you're missing the point, right? So it was
So the
really,
point was, we want money. We don't care about the kids.
So that's such a sad state.
And that's the GCI. That's they don't care about the kids. Back in the day, my parents used to, register. It was obviously a lot cheaper. They could work a couple bingos to pay off, some of the money. And it was for the kids back then. Hockey's not for the kids now. It's a business. That's why for you to say that, I'm not surprised one little bit.
Yeah.
NHL's about the business. Minor hockey is not minor hockey for the kids. It's a business, and the guys running it don't care. Coaches don't care. They care about their wins and losses because they care about themselves and running up. Like, obviously, there's a few that aren't like that, but for majority, that's the way it works now.
And it's funny when you say the game is 90% mental and 10% physical, and you listed the physical attributes, going to the rink and taking shots and going for a run and working out. And I said, how many people are working on this part of their game, which is 90% of the game, according to a guy who's won a Stanley Cup and played 18 years of pro? Zero. Almost none of them are doing anything on the mental side of the game. And everybody thinks that their talent and their stick handling skills and their skating and their conditioning is what's going to get them to that level. And what they don't realize is that everybody at that level can do that.
In life is 90% mental. All right. So if you're the best scientist, all right, are you working with your hands? A little bit, but where's it all coming from? Your mind.
That's a great analogy.
Like, if you're a doctor, okay, guess what? I'm going to do a surgery. I got to do this brain surgery. Where's it all coming from? It's all coming from your brain. It doesn't matter wwho you are. Life is 90% mental. If I wake up in the morning, the first thing I say, oh, I'm tired. Guess what? You're done. Your day is done right there. Most of the world lives half empty. Glass is half empty, not half full.
Right.
No.
It's so
true. Poor me. This. Okay, that's where what you give off is what you attract. If you're that half empty person, that's what you're going to get.
God, that's great. You know what? I say that to the guys I work with all the time. I said, the universe doesn't discriminate. Whether you think you can or you think you can't, you're right. And whatever you put out is exactly what you're going to get back. Positive energy or negative energy. Right?
Yeah. What's the little choo-choo train? I think I can.
Yeah.
I think how old were we watching that? There it is.
Yeah. It's simplest form, right? But it's so true, isn't it?
And they always talk about cliches. There's a reason why they're cliches, because they're right. You don't say wrong cliche. There's no such thing with a wrong cliche.
Yeah.
Because you don't say it. And
I hear you.
That's what it is. There's a cliche for a reason. And everybody's they don't listen to it. And there's a reason why it is a cliche, and really listen to it. And when I say something like that, everybody gets negative, something bad. God always passes messages in negative ways. Why? Because it hurts.
Yeah.
It takes time to see it. And there's a message in everything that happens. It's different for each person. But if you sense it while you're having a great time and things are good, guess what? You're going to miss it.
Yeah. And
we miss so many messages that we don't take time to take a step back. It's like automatically for me. Funerals, they should be celebrations of life.
Agreed.
It's just, yes, it's sad, the individual, whoever that is, during COVID, obviously we have a lot going on, and the rest of all their souls, guess what? They're up there in the most eternity, best place in the world. But let's celebrate who they were and what they're about.
Right.
Why do we go to
Celebrate
the
their
legacy?
legacy. And it's funny you say that too, because I talk about that a lot too with the guys I work with. Is think about what you want your legacy to be. How not just how you're going to act and what you're going to achieve from a wins, losses, goals, points perspective, but who are you as a person? And when they're putting you in a box, what do you want people to be saying about you? How did you leave this world? Did you leave it a better place than you found it? Because I don't think a lot of people take the time to think about it. And it's so refreshing to hear that, you know.
I talk about my legacy. You know, I never talk about hockey. You know, hockey brought me more pain than great. You know, so I don't want my name anything to do with hockey. And you know, I'll probably, you know, and I'll expand that what I say, because I want my legacy to be my foundation.
Yeah.
You know, I called my documentary, which is on YouTube. It's called, you know, Brent Sopel, Here to Change the World.
Yeah.
And people are like, why would you say that? Because I believe I'm going to change the world. And that's what my legacy is. You know, winning the Stanley Cup has been amazing to get me meetings that I would have never gotten. You know, I spent a lot of time up in Capitol Hill, up in Washington. You know, I was first Canadian, I think it was, to speak on a topic in the Library of Congress. Right? Not about me. It's for every kid out there. That's my legacy, not hockey. You know, so I will touch upon it, but my legacy that I want to live is that I changed the world and I helped each kid that's struggling today. If that's mental health, is that drugs, is that addiction, is that depression? You know, my message is you're not alone.
Yeah. I think that's so important because a lot of them don't know where to turn. And one of the biggest problems, and you know, being a hockey kid, and I was lucky my parents weren't like that, but you see a lot of the crazy hockey parents here in Toronto, you know, trying to live vicariously and pushing their kids to do things that are only for self-serving purposes. It's disheartening because you see all of these kids that maybe really enjoyed the sport. By the time they're 13, 14, 15, they're burnt out because they're hockeyed out or they're sported, whatever it is. It's a 12-month-a-year sport now, right? And
no, it's not.
It shouldn't be.
It shouldn't be. Up until I played 2 sports till I was 16.
Yeah.
And every kid should. And to elaborate on your statement there, so why are they pushing their kids so much? It's they're living vicariously through them. Why? Because they see the big dollars. So who's in it for the money?
Yeah.
So is so is minor hockey. So is the parents. All they see the the $100 million contract. All right, let's go through the NHL. How many $100 million contracts? Now let's go through the world of percentage of kids that are going to make there.
Yeah. Well, you know, I know I did this in my meeting in my Life Through Hockey. I talked about this in North America. There's 1.6 million kids registered in minor hockey. The odds of playing in the NHL, 0.0025.
I'm gonna write this down. You know, I got my pen and paper because I'm interested to hear these numbers.
Yeah. Hold on. I might even have this on my virtual background. Hang on here.
Perfect.
Yep, I do.
Because I talk to people all the time about this stuff, and there it is. All right.
There we go. Let me flip it. Hold on.
So 560,000 kids registered in minor hockey.
So these numbers are about 3 or 4 years old. So
okay.
When I did the conference, I also showed that, and I can send this to you, Brent, so that you have
send it to me for sure.
Easier
Because I'm interested.
So just like you said, 5 years average in the NHL, 5.5, and I've got the numbers, the statistics on the 4 major sports. So if you include basketball, baseball, and football in that, it's 5.85. Right. So it's in any pro sports, you're looking at maybe 5.5 years of a pro life. And then what?
Well, and then let's talk about what people don't understand, the backside of the business world. So I think it is now in 18 teams, 18 or 20 teams, I think it is in the NHL. If you make $1 million after your cost of living, taxes, escrow, all that stuff, you come home with $200,000. So, if you take that $200,000 for 5 years, you have $1 million. Okay. Where's that? You think you're making $8 million. No, you have $1 million. Still $1 million is a lot of money, but that $1 million can't last you the rest of your life to live. And if you have a family.
Right. I know. And I think that's the misconception that everybody thinks, oh, he plays in the NHL or he plays pro football or basketball, he'll be set for life.
I'm 44, almost 45. I have 4 kids with a grandson. I'm not set for life. I'm working every day. I'm twice as busy, if not 3 times busier now than I ever was. The sporting world is a business.
Yeah.
It's no different if you work for Lululemon, RBC Bank, And, the corporate world that you talked, it's exactly the same. It's exactly the same. Owners don't care about me. Chicago Blackhawks owner doesn't care that I was in rehab, that I was struggling. They don't care.
Yeah.
Just like you get rid. Let's just say, use RBC Bank, because everyone knows it Canada. That's why I'm just there's no preference. I'm just pulling a name out of hat. If they fire you, and you come back to in 2 years, they don't care who you are. You're fired. Just like when nobody will hire me or give me a contract, it's the exact same thing as being fired. So, it's different. It's nothing different if you really want to look at it.
And you know what? It's when you say that, it triggers a story. I'm dealing with one of my athletes right now. He's a football player, and he's at University of North Dakota. He's he's had an opportunity to go to another level of NCAA football, but he's very concerned about what the coaches are going to think if he puts his name. I guess they have this lottery now. When I went to school, there wasn't a lottery, but you can put your name in a lottery now and you can get picked up by another school. And this kid's a big kid. He trains hard all summer, and he's been shown some interest to go to, potentially go to another level in the NCAA. And so, he had a conversation with his coach, being right honest. And he said, look, I think I'm going to put my name in the lottery, and I want to be able to, to explore what the options are for me personally. And this is after almost 2 weeks of back and forth conversations. Right. And the coach's reaction was, you're a piece of shit. You let us down. We've been loyal to you for so long. How could you do this to us? And going back to your point now, it just re-emphasizes what I was telling him is you got to use them the way that they're going to use you. Make it a decision based on what you can do, what you have to do for yourself, because nobody else really cares. And 5 minutes out the door, they're not going to give a shit about you.
Yeah, and the difference is, Canada and the U.S., obviously it's two different worlds. We talked on about healthcare, before we got on, but let's talk about college. University is different in Canada than here. It is the second biggest business in the United States is college. Yeah. If you go the first 2 years, you go to school. It doesn't matter if you go to North Dakota, if you go to University of Washington, Ohio State, or Yale. The classes are exactly the same. Right. So go to a community college, go to a cheaper college. Then your last 2 years, transfer out if you want to get a bigger name, to go to a Michigan, or to go to a Harvard, or go to a UNT, North Dakota, or you want to go to Notre Dame. Then you get your degree from there. So, for him, if you want to transfer to a bigger school for your last 2 years, also there's a two-thought process. Are you going to play? Are you going to play more? But, that degree, because you're going to need that degree. You're not going to be, you wouldn't be looking up to move up if you're not going to be the next, Russell Wilson.
Right.
Sorry, because you already would have been there. So where do you get your degree from? Right. Is that going to be a Division I with a big name, or is that a Division III? Guess what? Right. That bigger name might draw you some more interest just for a job after, so it's a little bit more of a thought process, and we're used to it in Canada. Obviously, I've lived here in the United States for too long. I've been trying to get rid of my Canadian accent for a long time. I can't, but it's been like 20 years I've been here in the U.S. So, I know both sides of the border well. All my family's still in Canada. I'm a Saskatchewan boy, I always will be. But I know the business of life here in U.S. So with some of your clients, speaking of him, it's a different thought process. Now, are you going to go back to Canada and live? Or are you going to stay in the U.S.? So there's a lot more to it, but you're exactly right. You're a commodity, that is. I always use, commodity is too big of a word for me. I always use it more a piece of meat or a T-bone steak.
Same thing though, right? It's the same thing. You're a piece of meat, right?
Yeah.
So it depends how much they're willing to pay for what cut they think you are at the time.
yeah, you're T-bone or a ribeye or where you're coming at. Yeah. But that coach is pissed at him because guess what? He's a better player and he wants it. He wants wins. He's not there for the kid. And that's earlier we talked about that. Yeah. That's why he's pissed.
Yeah.
Because he was loyal to him. He was only loyal to him because he's one of our better players. And I need him to make me look better.
Yeah.
Because coaches make ridiculous money in the college sports.
Yeah. And look, I don't want to look at, I'm a big sports fan, and I think that sports can be used properly if you understand what's behind it, right? So I don't want to poo-poo on the game of hockey or football because essentially look, it's been able, we talked about this on our phone conversation, it's been able to open up doors, right? And you still got to go and deliver, but it opens up doors. And I think being
100%.
able
I'm
to
not here to prove
understand how
Yeah.
you can use it to your advantage and use them the way they use you, right?
And I'm same as you. I'm not here to disgruntle on hockey or football or baseball, basketball, none of them. Just be aware. This
Right.
is this is why we're on here. Is I'm open and honest about it. I'm
Yeah.
not going to sugarcoat it so that you end up a deer in headlights. So that's just me being aware. If you can get go your football player, if you can go get a college degree. It's basically $250,000 here in the U.S. That's what it costs for a 4-year degree. $250,000. That's almost $500,000 Canadian. If you can do that, my God, go ahead, do it. Take advantage of it. So I'm not, I'm just giving you the reality of it. Sports are amazing, to catapult who you are as an individual, as life. Absolutely. This is just to give you a rare look in the backside of reality so that you got to have all your eggs in the basket. You got to know what those eggs are going to come out. Is it going to be chickens or is it going to be eggs?
Yeah, for sure. I got to take a step. We'll take a step back into hockey. I got to ask you a few questions about hockey. I read something, and it kind of struck me as funny because you spent some time playing in Vancouver twice, and one of the comments I read on the Wikipedia was that Crawford said you'll never play in the NHL. What was the gratification when you actually got to step in? What was your first game like? Just share a little bit of that experience.
Yeah, it was funny, full circle. My first game was in Chicago, and against the Blackhawks, and obviously I ended up winning the Stanley Cup and living in Chicago for 13 years. So, obviously it was satisfying.
Which is funny, and I'll let you finish. But my very first pro game was in Chicago also, as an exhibition game with the Stars in '92, going up the back steps.
Is that when you played Reed Simpson?
Yeah.
Yeah, Simmer. So obviously Saskatchewan kid on the outdoor rink, I won the Stanley Cup a million times.
Yeah.
To finally get on the ice, obviously, was amazing. And funny, Mark Crawford said that to me, but I think I was close to 700 games, 650, I think, or something like that. Yeah. I think 500 of them were for Crawford.
So did you get to have a chuckle with him and go, "Hey, Crow, what's going on here?"
He was the reason why I played as many games as I did. What people don't understand what coaching in, 10%, 15% of his X knows. The rest is balancing personalities.
Wow.
So there's 23 guys on an NHL roster. There's 23 personalities. You've got to find ways to get the most out of each of your players. And he knew that I needed my wires crossed, and he crossed my wires, and we were good. We had, he knew what to do. He would after me, and he'd cross my wires, and that would make me go. Yeah. But maybe somebody else, you had to, hold their hand and walk them down the hallway and say, "Hey, listen, I need more out of you." Or maybe you had to go to the media and call somebody out in the media. Yeah. You had to know what each player was about. So you had to balance those personalities. Obviously, you won the cup with Joel Coinville. He's a second all-time winningest coach for a reason. He knows how. He's not a great X and O's guy, meaning he knows how to balance personalities. And we won the Stanley Cup. He knew how to get our first line going, and he knew how to go this. That's what that was. And so Mark Crawford, I'm so thankful that he was my coach. He's the reason why I won a Stanley Cup. He's the reason why I was in the NHL as long as I did. He did his job of crossing my wires. That's what I needed personally.
Yeah. And what I think part of it too is, to your point, is knowing yourself and what gets you fired up, but the coach knowing which buttons to push for each of those guys. And it's, it's like having 23 kids, right? And all those personalities, and being able to deal with them all, right? I got buddies of mine that are coaches in the OHL now, and different. They go, I got to be like the Google button. Kids need to have a question. I got to be able to have answers for every single one of them. And that's a little bit different today than like back in my early days. Coaches didn't tell us shit. Fuck, you were lucky if you got a fucking word out of them. They walk in the room, everybody go quiet. They say what they had to say, and then they fucking leave. Right?
Yeah, they're the boss.
I remember going up with the coaches, the assistant coach. I'm going, how come I'm in and out of the lineup? How do I get? Yeah. I think I'm doing all the right things. They go, be patient, keep working hard.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's
the fuck does that mean?
That's it. Yeah. They told you what to do. You listened. They tell you how high to jump. You jumped.
Yeah.
So that's you and I grow up in the same world, and that's the way it is. Obviously now, You tell a kid how high to jump. Okay, what degree am I supposed to go at? How much pressure?
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Yeah.
So
Why?
it is
Hold on. I got to bring
different.
in my team. They all got like conditioning coaches and, you know, people like me that are working on their mind, and they've got nutritionists, and it's like you got a whole village for one kid now, right? That you got to answer questions to. And I never really had an agent. Not that I really needed one, but even into my short minor league career. And now you got agents and advisors for these guys at 13, 14 years old.
Yeah. I was still holding
That's a whole other episode.
I was holding mommy's hand at 13 and 14.
Yeah, exactly.
I was too scared to cross the street.
That's one of my guys. Sorry for that.
Yeah,
so you know, you get to play almost 700 games in the NHL, and you make this jump to the KHL. What was the decision process behind that? Still had some game in you? Weren't sure what was going on?
you know, the process, you know, obviously everybody's dream is to win a Stanley Cup. You know, you take a lot of guys, we're talking about talking today, Patrick Marleau. He's breaking the all-time record games played.
Yeah.
You know, him and I go back to when we were 16 together in Swift Current. So what an accomplishment. But, you know, he went to Toronto to chase the cup. He went to Pittsburgh to chase the cup. I won a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And I was in 2004, 2005, you know, we locked out for the whole year. You know, so I missed a whole season of playing. I missed a whole year of salary. You know, after that, you know, I got traded to Atlanta and Montreal. And I looked at it, there was a lockout looming. I'm an older guy. You know, I was thought, you know, my thought process, and we were talking about it could be another year lockout. I'm like, all right, Brent, you're at the end of your career. You gotta get your Stanley Cup. Now let's try and make as much money, and you can retire and figure out what you want to do.
Yeah.
But if I lock out again for another year, no team in Europe is going to want me. You know, they want the younger guys. They want the skilled guys that everybody went over. So I jumped ship to the KHL early to get ahead of that. You know, I ended up having a couple offers to come back to the NHL, and you know, I had an amazing time. You know, I was in and out of like 10 countries, Kazakhstan and Belarus and Latvia. You know, in Russia, they treated me amazing. And you know, who can say that they went over there and spent 3 years in the KHL? And it allowed me to continue my career. I ended up playing over 1,000 professional regular season games, and
awesome.
You know, there's not a lot of people that can say that. So one of my best friends is still living in Russia, and you know, we talk weekly. And I was blessed to play as long as I can, but you know, it was an amazing country to go over there and see Eastern Europe. Or you know, most people see it on TV or documentaries, and you know, they're amazing to me, and I wouldn't change it for the world. And like I said, I can say I lived in Russia for 3 years and middle Siberia for a year and a half.
What was that like? Was it a bit of a culture shock when you went over there? Did you have an idea what to expect?
Yeah, my parents were like, you know, as a young kid, I'm going to send you to Siberia. Well, they eventually sent me to Siberia.
Sent you to Siberia,
Again, the hardcore culture shock, you know. So, you know, as you know, hockey fans, we always bitch about so-and-so coming from Europe isn't playing well. Let me tell you, I went over there like 34, 35, and I'm like, whoa. Really? You know, so it is not even close. You know, I can speak Canadian, I'm learning American, but Russian, you know. Again, you know, Brent Sopel, the long hair, greasy hair, and slowest guy in the NHL, trying to step on Olympic-sized ice. I'm like, holy shit. I can't go board to board without having a heart attack. But
I remember the first time I saw an Olympic-sized rink, and I stood on one side, and I was asking the guys beside me, is there a ferry that comes over to take me to the other side?
Seriously. And so it's by far the second best league in the world, the KHL, not even close. And so some of the guys that are over there, unbelievable. You know, I played against Tarasenko, Panarin, Kovalchuk. You know, these are the guys I played against over there. You know, so unbelievable. You talk about the skill over there, amazing. And a lot of them, you know, stay over there because it's such a culture shock. Some of them, you know, have wives and kids. You know, my two goalies when I played for was Ilya Sorokin, the goalie that just came over from the KHL to the Islanders, and Andrei Vasilevsky for the Tampa Bay Lightning. Best goalie in the world was those were two of my I see them being 1, 2 best goalies in the world. Those are my two goalies when I played in the KHL.
Not a bad tandem in that, huh?
Yeah, no, not bad. Thank you. Every mistake I made, Vasilevsky saved my ass so many times. So, him and I worked. He helped me with my Russian, saved my ass. I helped him with his English, and here I, now living in Tampa Bay and #1 goalie in the world, and we live close to each other. So it's amazing how the world works. But I loved it. It continued my career. Like I said, I was able to say that I got to 1,000 professional regular season games. A very small number of people can say that.
That's amazing. It's a great personal statistic, right? So when you decided, what was the deciding factor for you, Brent? What did you say? You know what? It's time for Brent to move on.
My last year, I ended up coming back and playing in the AHL in Chicago for Chicago Wolves. My body had my body was shut down. All the shot blocks, the career of playing contact hockey, what I did, almost 700 games, regular season games, and then you got playoffs in the NHL. That's probably 750, 800. My body had not, broken bones. So the Wolves are gracious enough to give me a contract, and I was more of a player coach almost. I was there to get my 1,000th game, to teach the kids. I want to see every one of those kids, make the NHL. And one of them, Joel Edmondson, obviously the Montreal Canadiens. You got Jordan Binnington as goaltender, St. Louis Blues. So there's a couple of guys that were on the team, and I was there to, to have fun, teach them, and once I got my 1,000th game, a couple of games later, I retired. But what my body had gone through, and we always dream of playing forever, but their body just doesn't do it. I always say I'm 44, but my body's 64, my brain's 74.
You got a great sense of humor about it. You got to have it, right? I mean, it's part of what keeps you sane, I guess, right?
Age is just a number. I'm always going to be 10 years old.
That's it. Well, look, I'm going to be 52 this year, and I remember back. I was looking at your pictures. I'm going, fuck, I remember when I used to have hair like that.
Yeah, that's one good thing. I don't. I'm doing good.
Yeah, I wear the hat for a reason.
I got,
you still got the
can't
feathers.
be genetics. So my dad, I don't know. I always say I think I'm the mailman's kid because my dad's bald too. So I don't know really sure where I got.
It's every other generation. I got to grow it here now. Right? Make up for up here.
I can't. I got spots here. Like people like you are the worst beard ever. I'm like,
awesome.
Life is you gotta have fun. All I ask, all I talk about people, I counsel people is until you love yourself, you can look in the mirror and say, I love you, know it, believe it, and feel it. That's when your life's going to change.
Yeah. Because
you can't love somebody else the way they need to be loved if you can't love yourself.
Agreed. I really agree with that. It's so true. I had to go through that experience myself. So are you having fun now? Let's talk about your foundation and what you're doing, because I think that this is truly the work that you're meant to do, right?
100%. And it took me to crash and burn in life, and then you went through it, and I had to get sober, and I had to love myself, and the foundation, obviously, dyslexia is 1 in 5. And it's hereditary, so cancer is 1 and 2, not all hereditary. Next is dyslexia. So I started the foundation just to advocate for these kids. I still think that less than 20% of the population of this world knows what dyslexia is, what we struggle with. So we're born with the right brain wired differently. So there's no pill, there's no shot, and it's not going right. It's hereditary. Everybody knows what autism is. That's not hereditary, and that's 1 in 65.
Wow.
So you take a look at 50% of people in prison in the world are dyslexic.
That's unreal. So I'll be honest. I mean, I was probably one of those people. I knew what it was. And, you always think it's, the letters get mixed up and, you can't read properly. But, as I dig into it, it's a lot deeper than that, isn't it?
And that's exactly why I'm here to advocate and tell kids they're not alone. It is. We have no self-esteem. That's it. So because we struggle from the first time we pick up that book, when you're 1.5, 2, that's when we start struggling. So dyslexia kicks off your bipolar, your depression, your anxiety, because the 3 words you're called are you're dumb, stupid, and lazy. And, anybody who wants to watch my documentary, It's about my life, about dyslexia. It's free on YouTube. It's called Here to Change the World, and please share it, because you have no idea who is struggling right now. 65% of us are addicted to drugs and alcohol. Why? Because we have no self-esteem, because we're called dumb, stupid, and lazy our whole life. And I couldn't get a job. Why? Because I had no self-esteem.
Interesting.
So that's why I always say less than 20%. Everybody thinks it's just flipping your B's and D's. That is absolutely not even close to it. There's 50 other things, and that's 50th on the list of all those 50 things.
It's incredible what, how little we know about some of the things that people have to deal with, because so many people live in silence, and they're just afraid or embarrassed to come out and talk about these things. I read that you really didn't even realize you had dyslexia until your daughter was diagnosed.
Yeah, I didn't even know what the word is. So I was 32 years old. So I got 32 years of hard pain scars. I talk about in my documentary. I was reading at a grade 4 level in high school. In high school, all you want to be is cool, and all you want is to look good for the girls. Yeah. And here you're trying to fit in. All the hormones, both female and male, and I couldn't read. So I hated my life, and that's why I said I had to crash and burn and love who I was. I had to relearn who that was. I never loved myself until I was in my 40s. Because of all the scars. And that's, I'm not complaining to anybody about it. That was just, nobody knows what I had. I didn't even know the word dyslexia was. Right. Got my daughter tested by a neuropsych, and we went back and got the test results. That was me. She's like, oh, and she's dyslexic. I'm like, all right, what word is that? What is that? So I had to dive in, and that's my story. Is not about me. It's about every kid out there struggling. Yeah. And we always say here in the U.S., 40 million adults have dyslexia. 2 million know it.
Wow.
So these stats are staggering. It's just astonishing. And that's why I just try and talk about it, just to hear, I want to change the world, but I got to educate the world before I can change it.
Yeah, so true, brother. So true. Very powerful story, in so many different ways, because, at a surface level, a lot of people will look at this and think they know Brent Sopel, the hockey player, and, successful NHL career, 1,000 games under his belt, Stanley Cup, but they don't see the struggles that are going on outside of the rink. Right. And this is a big reason why I do what I'm doing, because, I've had first glimpse personally, and the things that I've gone through mentally to try to, cope with things that there was nobody there for me at that time. And I think, people like yourself trying to change the world, bringing awareness to situations like dyslexia, because I'm sure, like yourself, up until you knew what it was, and even myself, we have this very minute understanding of what it is. Oh, it's mixed up letters. Well, we'll figure it out, right? Get over it. It leads to, and you said something very, very powerful, which is it leads to all these other symptoms of depression and anxiety and confidence and self-respect that just take away from the individual, all because of, this undiagnosed issue that they might have that they're too embarrassed to talk about.
100%. And, I was, for an example, I had a meeting with a guy about a month ago, and talking about the foundation. He works for a foundation, how we could collaborate together. A couple of days later, he called me up and said, I was with my son and my granddaughter, and I started telling him about you. This was in Chicago, all that I met with Brent, the Stanley Cup winner, blah, blah, blah. And he's like, my granddaughter is 15, and she's dyslexic. And he's like, I can't believe it. And he's close with them. That just tells you that nobody talks about it. Even grandpa, who was to a 15-year-old granddaughter, didn't even know that his own daughter was dyslexic until he started talking about it. And they're like, oh yeah, I am too. Because nobody talks about that embarrassment that goes along with it. Some of the richest people, Richard Branson, celebrities, Tom Cruise, Jennifer Aniston, the list goes on. Keanu Reeves, as Canadians, we all know who that is. They're all dyslexic.
That's crazy. I didn't realize that. So I've learned something new today too.
So it's mental health, in a nutshell. And that's why I talk about it. The documentary is really raw. I tell you the way it is. And that's, this podcast I just tell you the way it is. I don't sugarcoat it. You might not like it, but that's just reality that I've had to live through.
Yeah, and I think there's more power in that. I think people are tired of hearing things that they want to hear. They need to hear things that, or they should be hearing things that they need to hear, right? And I think there's hopefully there's more people like yourself that are coming out and talking about these situations personally. And I think when you talk about it personally and you open yourself up and you're vulnerable about it, and you've got an audience and you've got an ear because of what you've accomplished in your sport, but more importantly now what you are looking at leaving your legacy as, and making the world a better place and changing it and creating awareness, I think is a bigger mission. It's a much bigger mission than winning a Stanley Cup. The ring is nice, but being able to look back on changing the world, that's a pretty powerful legacy to leave behind, right?
Yeah, 100%. Obviously we talk about COVID and everything that's been going on the last year and a half. The people that, it was a message from God, spend some time with yourself, spend some time with your family, really, really dive in. The hardest thing in the world is self-reflection. And there's one thing in this world that we're never perfect at, is yourself.
Yeah. So
so the people that did that work are in a good place today.
Yeah.
The people who didn't are the one that aren't in a good place.
Yeah. I agree. And I think, being able to look at a difficult situation and try and find the positive in it. I've used this time myself to grow personally, and I've done so much reading and self-reflection during this, as much as we want to whine and complain about the restrictions we have up here in Ontario. I know you're not dealing with those down in Florida, but we got to have something to whine about just a little bit. But
what can you control? And this is what I tell people.
100%.
What can you control? There's only one thing you can control. That's yourself.
That's yourself.
So the restriction you're talking about, can you control that?
No. Nope.
So why spend time whining about something that can control?
I agree.
As a hockey player or an athlete, can I control what that coach is doing? No.
Nope.
Can I look in the mirror? If you're playing your 100% hardest every time you're on the field, court, or ice, you'll play every shift. No coach will ever take you off.
Right.
But so that's leaving it all out there. They always talk about.
Yeah.
Can you control what the coach is doing? No, I can't control what he's going to do, but I can control what I'm going to do.
Agreed. I love that, man. I mean, you're preaching to the choir here. And I have a little tagline that I use in my my social and stuff, and I ask, are you all in?
Yeah.
And if you're not all in, then you're not all in. Right.
Yeah.
And that's not just physically, it's mentally, it's conditioning, it's nutrition, it's the mental side, it's as a person. It's not just who you are when you show up to, the battlefield. It's who are you when you leave the battlefield? Who are you at night? Who are you when you wake up? What are you thinking about? What are you eating? What are you consuming? How are you making yourself a better person? How do you treat other people? Like, there's so many components. It's not just the 2 hours you spent training a day or performing in your sport. And the more we can get in touch with who we are personally, or ourselves, and control that, it's such a powerful thing. And that's, I'm glad you said that, so that if any of the guys that I work with are listening, they know it's not just me telling them control the controllables, right?
Well,
and don't worry about the things you can't control.
And to your point, we just talked about, is it's a bigger focus. Who you are as a person away from the rink means more than what you do at the rink.
Yeah.
And impacts your game more. While you talk about working out, you're talking about what you're eating. Okay, you're going to take care of, if you love yourself, you're going to take care of yourself. If you're a good person, you're going to take care of yourself, which you're going to take, by doing X, Y, and Z. Guess what? That love of who you are and what you are, and that confidence and that self-esteem comes back to on the ice or on the field or on the court, bigger and better than anything else.
Yeah, agreed. I tell the guys, I have a little saying. I say, your thoughts become your words become actions, your actions become your behaviors becomes your legacy.
Yeah, exactly. There's again a cliche. You're going to talk the talk or walk the walk.
Walk the walk. Agreed. Well, listen, man, we're coming up on an hour here. I don't want to take up too much more of your time. I know you got a lot of stuff going on. I got one final question for you. This has been awesome. I really appreciate your time. It's been great chatting with you. I feel like I've known you for all my life, but I think this just goes to show you the power of sports and hockey, being 2 degrees of separation with Ryan in between there. But
Yeah.
so the last question I like to ask a lot of my guests is before you say goodbye is if your life was a billboard on the road of life, what would your billboard say?
You can't change the past. You can't change the future. You can only change now.
I love it. That's awesome.
And then people are like, what are you talking about? What does that mean? You can't, hindsight's 20/20. They say that for a reason.
Yeah.
Everybody thinks that they can change the future. I'm planning on doing this for dinner, or I'm looking up the menu online. I'm going here. Why? I might be dead. And that might seem morbid. You don't know.
Great.
You can't, so why goes back to focusing, you can change now, right now, you and I right here. And the hardest thing in the world that I've found is living for the moment.
So hard. And man, I got to tell you, it's almost like you read my mind and you're reading everything that I've been doing. I just put out a post 2 days ago, and the title of it was "Every Single Second, Everything Changes."
Yeah.
You just called it out right there.
Yeah.
It's awesome. So there you hear it, guys. This isn't just Rob preaching. You hear it from Brent Sopel. That's amazing, brother. Again, I'm humbled and grateful and thankful that you were able to come on and spend an hour and share your story. And I wish you continued success, not only with the solar business, but mostly with the Brent Sopel Foundation. Quickly, just give everybody an update on where they can find you, where they can follow you, and how they can support you.
Yeah, so the Brent Sopel Foundation, you go on the website. I'm just about finishing the Canadian website, so that's going to launch here hopefully in the next couple of weeks in Canada. So obviously it's 2 different countries, advocating on both sides in Parliament in Washington. So merchandise will be on there. BrentSopelFoundation.ca in the Canadian side, .com on the other side. So that's the money that we raise in Canada stays in Canada to advocate for all the Canadians and doing the things they can do. And once the borders open up, I'll be, doing events and things like that in Canada. Obviously, thanks for having me on, Rob, and always here to help anybody in your audience and any of your clients any way I can.
That's amazing. And don't be surprised to get a text or a phone call one day. You're an awesome guy. I really appreciate it. And anytime you want some obscure minor leaguer to come in and support you, I'm there. I got your back, brother.
I appreciate that anytime. I can always need a little extra hand, and, the world's a cruel place. So, find some good people and put them in your life.
Awesome. Appreciate it, guys. Brent Sopel, thank you for joining. Welcome, welcome. You got my mind going all over the place. We'll have you back on, and we'll welcome you back again. Right. Brent,
Perfect.
Appreciate your time again today. Thanks, brother.
Thanks, buddy. Bye. Take care. Bye-bye.